the Strait of Hormuz was open. Oil and gas were at $60 a barrel. Iran was led by an aging, unpopular regime, right? The United States had full weapons stockpiles. It hadn't had to pull weapons out of East Asia, places like that. Where are we today, right? Iran has a more radical regime. The regime hasn't been toppled, right? Oil, last time I checked, was well over $100 a barrel. And this is going to have long-term consequences. Fertilizer isn't getting out of the Gulf either, which is going to have long-term consequences on food prices, and people are going to starve around the world as a result of that. And Iran has now learned that it can weaponize closing the Strait of Hormuz. So no, this was not the right way to deal with it. And back, by the way, before Mike Pompeo was Secretary of State, we had a nuclear agreement with Iran, where they had agreed to the strictest inspections in world history. They were permitted to have 300 kilograms of enriched uranium. That's how much they had, and it was enriched to 3.6%. After they tore up the deal, a deal, by the way, part of the rules-based order that was fully endorsed by a unanimous vote of the UN Security Council. Mike walked away from that.
Do you think they were?
Wait,
just for a second.
This is my turn, sir.
No, well, wrap up because Mike wants in here, and this is a debate.
When we started the war back in June 2025, when Israel and the United States attacked Iran, they had over 10,000 kilograms of enriched uranium, some of it enriched as much as 60%. So the decision to leave the JCPOA was a huge strategic blunder, and it's one of the reasons we are in a war today.
Okay, Stephen, I want to give Mike a quick rebuttal because
only this.
His time.
Only this. I'm familiar with Brooklyn and bridges and the like. And if you think the Iranians were complying with the JCPOA, I got one for you.
This is what the IAEA said.
Yeah.
You like a rules-based order, then you have to listen to objective international organizations.
What the IAEA said is what.
Let me come to Victoria now.
For the record, what the IAEA said is, to the best we can tell, and let me assure the audience that when the Israelis took out the documents hidden inside of Iran about their nuclear program, work was still underway.
Victoria, let me come to you. You're not a supporter of kinetic action against Iran, but you've indicated that it was simply unacceptable for the world to allow Iran to enrich uranium to levels that could quickly facilitate the construction of an atomic weapon. Give us the argument of why an aggressive posture towards Iran was necessary, maybe in your case short of military force, but aggressive nonetheless.
Listen, I also wasn't a supporter of ripping up the JCPOA. It was far from perfect, but what we could have done was build upon it, both to continue its length and also to deal with what we now see is equally dangerous, which is, well, maybe not equally, but the long-range missile strike capability, et cetera, their support for terrorism. In the Biden administration, we spent 4 years trying to get Iran to come back to the table in a serious way, either at the level of the JCPOA or even better, and they would not play. And we gave them every opportunity to do that. And so, look, I am glad that we buried a huge amount of that nuclear material in June. Do I think now that with the Iranian people rising up, we could have done overtly and covertly more support for them? Do I think that the sanctions regime, President Trump is a fan of maximum pressure. I don't think in his first year of his second term, he applied maximum pressure on their economy and those kinds of things, and we should have tried all of those things first. We were at the negotiating table. We also, had, yes, an aging leader, and now we have a tougher group of younger guys who have to prove themselves. So.
Okay, Victoria. John, to come to you, the counterexample of inaction vis-a-vis Iran is North Korea. It's nuclear armed, it's belligerent, it is now protected by its own nuclear umbrella. Why, give me the argument for why North Korea wasn't, in a sense, a foreign policy failure, a failure on part of the United States and the world to confront a power at a moment when we could have, like we're confronting Iran now, as opposed to letting North Korea jump forward to a bomb and become the rogue nation that it is today.
Well, it was a foreign policy failure in the sense that North Korea got nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
We tried to prevent them from getting nuclear weapons, and they got them. And it's very important to understand here that states have powerful incentives to get nuclear weapons. You all understand that the United States has nuclear weapons, and it has no intention of getting rid of its nuclear weapons because we understand they are the ultimate deterrent. And the same logic applies to North Korea. And we tried, and I believe that we were somewhat disingenuous in our dealings with the North Koreans, didn't deliver on all the promises, and the end result is they went out and got nuclear weapons. But the question is, what should we have done to prevent that? The last time we went into North Korea was in 1950 when we crossed the 38th parallel heading towards the Yalu River. The end result is that the Chinese came in and we ended up fighting the Chinese in the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. There was no way we could invade North Korea and prevent them from acquiring nuclear weapons, which is why we had to sit by and watch it happen. And the point I tried to make about Iran is that if you go into a country like Iran with good intentions, the end result is you're going to create a disaster. And that's actually what's happened. We are in a losing war. And if anything, we've given the Iranians greater incentives than ever to acquire nuclear weapons. If you're the Iranians, you look at the North Koreans and you say to yourself, the North Koreans got this one right. We were foolish not to develop nuclear weapons on our own earlier because they make such good sense.
I've not heard my opponent say Iran is a monster. I think this is irrefutable. The deaths, the ability to export terror around the world, not only the ability, the capacity, you and I both, right? We both studied at West Point. It's about capability and intent, right? This is what you learn in your military history 101. They had the capability to export terror and they had the intention of doing so. You need only look at the press releases. And you all somehow suggest that it's worse today, as if there's such a thing as an Iranian moderate. Like, oh my gosh, they're so much worse today. And geez, if they'd have just known that North Korea had a nuclear weapon, they would have done, like, they know. Trust me. Now, these are radicals, these are monsters. And so now the task at hand is not costless and not easy. Make no mistake about it. I do not make light about the risk. We've already had Americans killed in the course of this conflict, and it breaks my heart that these folks sacrifice, but they sacrifice for an important objective. Straightening out the straits, creating freedom of navigation so this product can indeed move. And you suggested somehow that, oh, now the Iranians know they can use this as a tool. Come on, folks. They built up this entire arsenal with the sole mission of having this as leverage that they have been using against the world for decades. One of the reasons President Biden didn't do what President Trump did, and President Obama didn't do it, and President Trump didn't do it his first term, because he knew precisely what they would do. They would use the tools that they'd built to close the strait. This is not news. If you think this is new, I mean, that's crazy, right? Somehow you suggested, like, oh my gosh, they finally decided, hey, you know what we could do? Like, no, the truth of the matter is he has to go finish this task. And what does finishing it look like? We can actually do the hard work with our Gulf Arab allies, the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, our friends in Israel. We can collectively, and I hope the Europeans, and I'd love to see the Canadians join us too, to do what humanity demands, right? This is what human decency demands. You don't let a radical regime close off the global economy by firing Shahed missiles into nations that did nothing, right? They're firing into civilians in the United Arab Emirates even just this week. That's just not something that the world can accept. And so this monster is worthy of the hunt.
You do know, Mike, that we started the war.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Oh, no. Steve.
They weren't firing those missiles until Israel and the United States attacked Iran. You do understand that, right?
Welcome to 1979, when the revolutionary regime began to kill Europeans.
You do know that we overthrew the democratically elected government in 1954.
Just for the record, you were talking about this.
You don't think Iran has? You think Iran's forgotten about that?
No, I suspect they've not.
You don't think Iran remembers that we supported Saddam Hussein in the Iran-Iraq War?
I know
forgotten
this.
about this?
I know this.
Other countries have history.
Do you think Iran is a monster?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think they're.
Okay.
I'm glad I don't live
go.
there. I think many countries do many bad things, including my own. And I wouldn't call the United States a monster.